All right. Hello, everybody. Welcome to Korean Atlanta Mentorship here with another debt payoff video. So right now it's almost 2:30 a.m. and I'm quite sleepy. And the reason that I'm mentioning this is because we're going to go ahead and pay off debt, and it's not as complicated as you think it would be. In fact, one of the things that I just did is I asked Gemini to make fun of other YouTubers for making debt payoff super complicated and writing a bunch of things on a whiteboard. So if you know about me, I like to make things really simple. I hate the whiteboard, and I like using Excel because you can replicate my results in Excel. And when I look at other YouTubers, this is my reaction. So many numbers, I give up. But I'm just going to show you how easy debt payoff is. It's not complicated at all. And I think that a lot of people overcomplicate it. And let's go ahead and do this. And, it's so easy that I can just do this half asleep. And if you're new to the channel, I've done so many debt payoff demonstrations on YouTube that I don't have to be fully awake for this. And hopefully you'll get to a point where if you do it many, many times, and I think I have over 800 videos on this channel, you'll be a debt payoff guru, sensei ninja. Okay. All right. So let's go ahead and get started. Debt payoff. We're going to use something called the velocity method. And what is the first step to paying off debt? It is creating a budget because your budget is your debt attack plan. Okay. It's really simple. And so you have your income, expenses, leftover checking and savings. Now, this is the same scenario we did as last time. And so if you've ever been in a situation where you've made $6,000 a month after tax, that's about $100,000 a year, right? So in a two-person household, both people make $50,000. This could be a realistic scenario. And if you make that much money and you have like $1,000 left over, um, things kind of feel tight, right? Like you'd be more comfortable if you had 2 or 3,000 left over, but most people don't have that. And in fact, I've done situations where where we have 0 left over, and we get into ourselves in a much better situation using this method. But we'll just say we have $1,100, $153 left over. And so once you've created your simple budget, then what you do is an expense breakdown. And so what you do is you list every single debt that you have and its associated payment. And then on top of that, we list a monthly average of all the expenses that are not tied to debt: food, gas, insurance, all that other good stuff in one line item, right? So the whole point of this is to imagine what would our life be like if we were completely debt free. Now, for some people, even if they were debt free, life would be bad, right? Life would be bad. And that's when we have an income problem, not necessarily a debt problem, right? And to be honest, the bank doesn't even want to deal with you if they find out that if you're debt free, that you're still screwed, right? And we'll talk about that a little bit later. So here, if we do become debt free, okay, let's just imagine we're debt free. We notice that our life does get better because this number went from about $1,100 to $4,000, and that's the goal of this debt payoff method. Okay, so let's go ahead and go back to the original scenario. So now with this velocity method, okay, we're going to assume two things. Okay, number one, same income. Number two, same expenses. All right. So let me go ahead and copy the income and the expenses. Now, these numbers are going to look exactly the same to left and to right. So they're conceptually and philosophically different. Okay. Now, if you show these numbers to the average person, okay, they'll just say these are the same numbers. And I'm saying that this is a philosophical concept more than anything. Okay. So what we're going to do is we're going to put our checking and savings a big fat 0 here. And then we're going to focus on this cash flow number. Now, if you've ever studied real estate investing, the formula for cash flow is income minus expenses minus debt service payments, right? Income minus expenses minus debt service payments. So essentially whatever is left over in your checking account is your cash flow. The way that we're going to consider our cash flow is by the amount that our debt gets reduced pretty much every single month, right? That's what we're going to consider a cash flow. So philosophically, the left side is different from the right side because the left side, we want to make the checking account the final destination of our money. On the right side, we want to make something called a line of credit as the final destination of our money. And the checking account is simply just the middle man or woman, if we don't want to discriminate my gender, or it's that, they, them, whatever. Anyways, I'll probably get canceled for that. All right. So now, left side, checking account is final destination of your money. Right side, it's your line of credit. And your checking account is the mid stop. I can't even think right now. I'm so sorry. It is the temporary stop of your money, right? Like it's like, yeah, you don't want to put money in a checking account. It's like a hot potato there. Okay. And so the final destination is a line of credit. So what is a line of credit? It's a financial tool where you could borrow money, pay it back, and then use it over and over again, right? So think of like on-demand cash. You just click a button on the bank's website and they'll give you on-demand cash, right? And so why do we use the line of credit? Because the line of credit is the only financial tool the bank provides where you could put all of your money in and immediately get it out, right? That's one reason. And then another reason is that you'll have lower interest rates than most credit cards with the line of credit. So that's really important too. So you get lower interest rates and you get a lot of flexibility. And so this is the perfect ideal tool where you could throw all of your money in, consolidate your debts, and then increase your cash flow. Okay. Now, how do you get a line of credit? And I tell you the secret to this. Okay. And most people either don't believe me or they want to deny it, the truth that I will tell you. Banks don't lend money to people who need it. So if you ever go to a bank and you say, hey, I want a line of credit, but I have a lot of debt and I don't have that much money left over. And they'll figure this out even if you never tell this, because they'll just look at your credit report and look at your income and do all these calculations because they have all the data in the world about you, even if you don't even know. um, they'll look at all these factors and say, hey, this person needs money. No, no thanks. And you might think, well, that's really unfair, right? That's really unfair. And the banking system is not about fairness. It is about risk mitigation, right? Just like an insurance company. Okay. So when they see that a person needs money, that literally means to a bank, I'm not going to pay you back. I'm not going to pay you back. And you might have had this experience before with your friends or family. Heck, this could have been you where you wanted to, or you needed money, so you wanted to borrow it from one of your friends, and you said the words "I need money." There's a reason why you or one of your friends got burned by whoever they're lending to, is because the magic words "I need the money" was said, right? I need the money. I need the money, right? The bank's human translator thinks of that as I'm not going to pay you back. Now, why do we demonstrate with the free and clear line of credit, even though a bank will never give you a free and clear line of credit, is because you will understand that if you've gotten this before, or you had gotten this before, this would have been a lifesaver. But it's kind of like the chicken and the egg, right? And, to be honest, it's actually harder to teach realistic scenarios because they're more complicated. But I'm going to just show you half asleep how easy it is to do debt payoff. And I've gotten over $700,000 in lines of credit. One day I probably will get $1 million. It'll just be in my sleep, but I have over 700,000. So this is what we're going to do. What we're going to do is we're going to move some debts into the line of credit. Okay. And then increase our cash flow without making more money. And so the easiest way to do this is by using a method called the cash flow index. If you don't know what it is, it's just a simple basic formula of the amount of debt that you have. So in this case, it'll be $5,000, right? Current balance divided by the monthly payment, 175. And you do this for all of your debts. You do this for all of your debts, and you do this from smallest to largest, smallest to largest. And what you do is you pay the smallest ones off first, and you pay this largest ones off last, right? It sounds simple enough, right? And so you might be thinking like, well, why pay off this one last? Well, for the mortgage, you literally have to give somebody $250,000 for $1,000 of cash flow. That's a lot of money for a little bit of cash flow. So the whole goal is to get as much cash flow that we can and then pay it off and then apply it to our other debts. Okay. And so what we're going to do, right, is instead of paying the $250 for only $1,000 of cash flow, just pay off these 3 credit cards. And that's about 28 grand, almost about 30 grand for about the same amount, right? Why would you pay $250 for $1,000 of cash flow when you could pay 28 grand for almost $1,000 of cash flow? More bang for your buck. That's what this cash flow index means. With that, that's why we pay it off in this order, because the lower the number, that means we get, what is it? More bang for our buck in terms of cash flow. And that's what we're going to do. So we're going to go ahead and pay these ones off first. Ones below 50 are usually fair game. So 5, 8, 15. And then I'm going to sum it up, and that's $28,000 of credit card debt. So let's move it here. And then guess what happens? 0, 0, 0. Oh my goodness. Let's take a look at this. Okay. We literally went from $1,153.89 to 2,770, not 700, to 2076.39 without making more money. Do you see this? How we this $6,000 has stayed the same. It literally just stayed the same. We did not make more money. So if we didn't make more money, doesn't that mean that the way that we've been doing banking in the quote average American style has been inefficient all along? And the main culprit of this, okay, is related to Dave Ramsey's baby step 1, which is save $1,000, right? So there's 2 contradictory ideas that you were told about banking. Number 1, you should pay off debt. Okay, well, makes sense. Number 2, you need to save money. Well, how do you pay off debt if you save money? Because those are 2 opposite directions, okay? So we are not going to do that. We're just going to pay off debt. And the reason why so many people have trouble putting all of their money into debt is because they're putting it in tools that don't have complete flexibility. So for example, why don't people put their entire paycheck into a credit card? Well, if I put this $6,000 into, let's say, credit card 3, how do I pay credit card 2, 1, and all these other loans? I can't do that. That's why we don't put our entire paycheck into a credit card. But when we put it into a line of credit, we can put it in we can put it in, we can take out the money right after, right? So we can pay anything and everything with that line of credit. That's why we use a line of credit, okay? So final step is now we're going to put the entire paycheck, $6,000 here, into the line of credit, take our expenses out, right? Pay out all of our other debts when the monthly debt payment is due, as well as our general expenses. Hold on, let me just go back here. Our general expenses, food, gas, insurance. And then we let the cash flow just kind of decrease the debt. So it will just feel like a natural balance of, or natural, I want to say natural selection, but that's not the right word. It's a natural selection of your debt. But but it's just going to feel natural that the debt just goes down, but automatically by itself without really thinking about it, right? Because this is just we're playing the law of averages. Essentially, we just put our paycheck into the line of credit. Okay, we'll just pay for things, and then the line of credit balance will go down about $2,000. Right now, the line of credit does have a cost. 8%, in this case, assuming it's a home equity, because that's usually a typical interest rate for a home equity line of credit. And we have to calculate that. Okay, so this is what we're going to do. We're going to take the previous month's balance plus the previous month's interest minus the cash flow. And what is the cash flow here? It is 2076.39. And then what we're going to do is take the average daily balance, multiply it by the interest rate, and then you divide it by 12. So if you didn't know, when they quote you an interest rate and they say the words APR, that's an annual interest rate. And so the way that they calculate it is for the monthly, they divide by 12 and then calculate that or multiply by that by the average daily balance. Sometimes they divide it by the number of days in the month, but I've seen it where they just divide by 12 and that's it. Okay. So, and they also have a daily periodic rate and all that. I don't want to go too much into that, but this is a easy formula you can use to determine what the interest is for that month for using that line of credit. Now, here's the crazy thing here, okay? Some people freak out about their monthly payments, like, I can't make the payment. Well, the payment here is only $179, right? And so if I put my entire paycheck, $6,000 paycheck, into a line of credit that only has a payment of $179, am I not pretty much almost guaranteed to make that payment? Like, making the payment, it will be no problem, right? Like, the minimum payment is usually just the interest or interest and a little bit of principal. But when you're putting your entire paycheck into that line of credit, whether, the minimum payment is just the interest or the interest plus the little principal, it doesn't matter. It's the same thing. Who cares? Okay. So let's go ahead, and I'm just going to go ahead and copy and paste, and then we'll see that, hey, balance is going down. The amount of interest I pay is going down. Look at how easy it is. Oh my goodness. And in 15 months, listen, I didn't even think, right? Because it's just the natural course of things. I just paid off the debt and I'm good. And I was easily able to pay my bills because I could just pull it out of the line of credit when it's due, right? So, okay. So let's go ahead and do this. And this is going to be month 15. And I'm going to record that as a milestone, 15 months. And that's going to be 28K, I believe, 28K of debt. And now we have the auto loan, student loan, and the mortgage. Now, are you confused because there are just so many loans and lines of credit? Don't worry. Okay, all we have to do is just follow a simple formula. Just use a cash flow index. And luckily, we have a loan calculator here where we can just type in the current month and I can get the current balance of the debts, right? So as you can see here, these are the original balances, the interest rates, and then the term, and then we get the payment here. I just put the current month. Well, blam, we get the current balance at month 15. And so we just followed the cash flow index again, right? So most people, when they think about paying off debt, all they're thinking about is the interest rate. That is all they think about. And so now they're so focused on the interest rate that all they'll do is just think about paying off that student loan. And we know how stressed people get paying off student loans. And most people don't even really do a good job. In fact, if it were up to the loan companies, right, like they wouldn't want you to make large payments to their debts. That's why they love the income-based repayment programs. Like, you make low payments and then the interest accrues over time and your loan balance, like that was originally $90,000, turns to $190. Okay. So let me just kind of say this. Even though this is the highest interest rate here, this cash flow index, what does this mean? That the low number means we get more bang for a buck. So I'm going to pay 16 grand for $400 of cash flow, or I could pay 36 grand for 460 of cash flow. Which one gives me more bang for my buck? Obviously, it's this one, right? Because it's not just about the interest rate, it's also about the ratio of balance to payment. So let's go ahead and move this debt into that line of credit. So I'm going to go ahead and do this. Okay. And I'm going to go ahead and oh my goodness. Does this not work anymore? Okay, there we go. So let's move this 16904.71 And then we're going to increase, okay, we're going to increase the auto loan, $405. So this is $2,481.56 of cash flow. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. Okay. And let's go ahead and update that cash flow number, 2481.56. And so now 22 months, we paid off that auto loan. Pretty sweet, right? All right, so now let's go ahead and do this, 22 months. And then this is going to be 28 plus 22, 28 plus 28 plus 22. So that's 50K. Well, let me just check one thing. It's 22 months, right? Yeah, 22 months. I got confused because it's like 22K auto balance, 22 months. I just want to make sure I didn't get mixed up on anything. All right, so now it's the student loan and the mortgage. Okay, so now it's going to be 22 months. What's the current balance of these? 34 grand and 240. Follow the cash flow index number. Now, I'm not saying completely ignore the interest rate, right? Because that is pretty much a mistake if you completely ignore the interest rate. So if you have a relatively high cash flow index, let's say above 50, right? Especially above 100. If you have an interest rate of a loan that's very similar or even higher than a line of credit, it's safe to move that loan into a line of credit. However, if the interest rate of the loan is lower than the line of credit, it is not safe to move that loan into the line of credit that's at a higher interest rate, especially when you have this high cash flow index number. Because what does this high cash flow index number mean? Well, it means that you pay a lot of money, you only get an itty bitty amount of cash flow. And now you're going to end up paying a lot more interest because this 240 that was at a 3% interest rate is now at an 8. Okay. And you only got an itty bitty amount of cash flow for that loan. And so this is why we didn't have to worry with the 4% interest rate when we moved it into a line of credit, because we were getting a relatively good amount of cash flow from that loan when we moved it into a line of credit. And we have to understand there's 3 main factors that determine what the payment of a loan is, which is the original balance, the interest rate, and the term. And what most people don't know is that the longer the term, the lower the payment, but the more interest you pay. So for the average person, it's very obvious that if the higher the interest rate, you pay more. That's very obvious to most people. But what's not obvious to most people is that the higher the term, the lower the payment, and the more interest you pay. Okay. And the way that a bank makes money is just long minimum payments over time. So the way that they trick you with the mortgage is they just call it a monthly payment rather than a minimum payment. But remember, it's really just a minimum payment. Okay. So now this is what we're going to do. I'm going to be a little bit lazy here and then move this 34 grand into the line of credit, even though it's at a 8% interest rate. So even this, because it's very similar, we should be relatively safe. But with the 3% loan for 30 years, it's not a safe move. Okay. So let me go ahead and move this right here. I'm going to go ahead and copy and paste. And then this is going to be plus 34591.93. And then this is going to be $464.43. We have $3,000 of cash flow. Okay. All right. So now this is going to be 2945.99. And then I'm going to go ahead and copy and paste. And then there's going to be 34 months. And we paid off the student loan. Look how easy that was. Oh my goodness. All right, so now it's 50 plus 40, so that's 90K. And I'm doing this half asleep. Don't worry. I still love you. I can pay it off. It's just one more debt. And what's the balance of the mortgage in 34 months? Well, I just got to put month 34 right here. And then now it's 234 grand. Okay, so we can actually see how much interest we paid. So we paid 20 grand of interest so far, but okay, we didn't really pay that much interest with the other loans. And so let me just kind of show you here that when we move the let's say this one is the student loan, it was like at 30 something 34,000. Look how we only pay like $100 of interest or $200 of interest at most, and it just decreased, right? So we didn't pay that much interest for the life of the loan. All right. So, anyways, so now we're at the final step, right? So you have to decide, do I want to still use a line of credit? And the way that I think of the line of credit at this stage is kind of like wearing a safety belt, right? So just because you never had an accident doesn't mean you should stop using a safety belt. But some people are like, well, yeah, I know that me putting all my money into a line of credit got me here, but why don't I just do extra payments? And there's nothing wrong with that. But the reason why most people can never overpay a loan is the same reason why most people can never overpay a credit card, even though a credit card is technically a line of credit, right? Because using a loan or a line of credit and overpaying it always introduces friction in how your money flows. Okay. So just remember that. This is why people naturally cannot put all their money into a credit card. Okay. Now, obviously, since this is the very last loan, it's not going to make that big of a difference. But what I want to show you is that, hey, even if you use an 8% line of credit to pay off this 3% loan, it's a very safe bet, or it's relatively safe. Okay. Now, there are some people out there who will freak out and say, "Oh my goodness, I can't believe you're paying you using an 8% line of credit to pay off a 3% loan. You are going to ruin your life and lose your house, blah 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 blah." Okay? Now, there might be some of that could be true. I'm not gonna say anything is 100% guaranteed. But what I'm saying is that if you just do the math, you'll realize that claim is pretty much overblown, right? Because let's assume that what we did is we moved a piece of the loan into a line of credit. Okay, this three piece of the 3% loan into a line of credit. Now, one of the things that you'll figure out is moving a piece of the loan into a line of credit versus replacing the entire loan with a line of credit are two different things, especially with regards to the 30-year mortgage. And I'll show you this right now. So, like I said before, so let's say we move $6,000 of the loan into the line of credit. Okay, so that's what this means. And it's 8%. And we put all of our income, expenses, loan information in there. How long does it take to pay off the loan? 5.4 years, and we only pay 20 grand of interest. Now, some people out there will highlight this and say, "Oh my goodness, 8% line of credit, 3%, please don't, you're gonna ruin your life as if you were doing math." Right? Now, I will just say this. Okay, well, let's say that instead of an 8% line of credit, you got a 1% line of credit. 1%. Okay. Now remember these two numbers, 20 grand at 8%. Okay, let's do 1%. Oh, I pay 19 grand of interest. So I literally just saved $1,000 by using a 1% line of credit than an 8. So did it really make that big of a difference? No, it did not, because people don't understand that interest rate is not the only thing that matters. Now, obviously, if you use a lower interest rate line of credit, you will save some money. You will actually save some money. Like, if you use a 1% line of credit versus an 8, obviously you will lose some money. But this is not the difference between you paying off your debt so fast and you completely ruin your life if you use a 1 versus an 8, right? Now, one thing I will show you is that replacing a loan with a line of credit is a completely different situation, right? So if I put this 234 into a line of credit, look at this, 66 grand. Okay. Now, this is where interest rate matters. So if I do 1%, oh, I only pay 6 grand, right? So people get the two confused. People get the two confused. If you replace an entire loan with a line of credit, that is completely different from using a loan to partially pay, I'm sorry, a line of credit to partially pay off a loan, right? So if we do small amounts, small chunks, you'll see that the effect of the interest rate is almost negligible. and we paid it off in 5.4 years, and we made it easy, and I can do it while falling asleep. See, the whole premise of this is that you want, let's say, an automated system or almost semi-automated system where you can essentially just set it and forget it and not worry about how much you need to pay extra into whatever loan that you're doing. It's literally just, I'm going to put my entire paycheck into line of credit, pay my bills, that's it, right? And the only thing that we did differently is that we just did not save money and put money into the checking account and made the checking account the final destination of our money. We just put our entire paycheck into the line of credit. Now, obviously, there's a lot more to this. I'm simplifying it, but that's essentially what it is. And I can just do this, be half asleep. Holy crap, is it 30 minutes? Well, that's what happens when you're half asleep and you're so passionate about paying off debt at like 2:30 or 3 a.m. Okay. Anyways, here's the funny thing. I always remember when I upload these videos late at night, and then by the time I wake up, like 70 people have watched. I was like, where did these 70 people come from? But hopefully we'll increase that number to 700 or 7,000 because I might hire some video editors to spice this up. Okay. All right. Well, that's it for today, folks. This is Korean Atlanta Mentorship here with another video. Have a great day, and I'll see you on the next one.